Puerto Rico is one of the greatest rum producers in the world. And yet, every Christmas, every parranda, every family gathering, another rum appears. No brand, no taxes, no permissions. This rum has been illegal for generations. It survived Spain, it survived the United States of America, and it survived the modern rum industry. This is not a story about a drink. This is a story about power, identity, and resistance. Welcome back to another episode of Chronicles and Cocktails. I'm Josue, the spirited historian. Before we continue, I want to remind you to please subscribe, like, and hit the bell button. Share it with your friends. Puerto Rico's relationship with alcohol begins early. In 1493, sugarcane arrives with Cristobal Colon, and within decades, fermentation and distillation becomes part of everyday life on the island. By the 17th and 18th centuries, aguardiente de caña is everywhere. It is consumed by jornaleros, slaves, soldiers, pretty much by everyone alike. It is used medicinally as agua de vida, sort of like whiskey, which means agua de vida, water of life. It is even distributed during religious festivals and even to prisoners. At this stage, rum is in rebellion. It is function. The idea that alcohol is dangerous, immoral, or socially corrosive comes later, and it comes from those in power. Okay, so before we go any further, we need to define Pitorro. Because outside Puerto Rico, people almost always misunderstand it. Pitorro is a distilled spirit made from sugarcane. Historically, it emerges from local fermentation and distillation practices, and at this point it's called Cañita or ron de caña. It becomes Pitorro when it is allowed to rest or to be curado over time. Some recipes call for dried fruits and ingredients such as meat and even cheese, depending on the flavor profile you want the final result to be. Some people add fruit syrups like coconut, tamarind, pistachio, chocolate, and coffee, but most of those flavors are just added to the cañita. True Pitorro is aged, sometimes buried underground, of course, or put in dark places, in dark bottles, sort of like this type of bottle. I mean, this is the bottle. or put in dark places for years. This is not a 1 or 2 week thing. It takes longer to properly age and build that flavor. So, not all cañita is pitorro, but all pitorro comes from cañita. Remember, cañita, once you age it, it becomes pitorro. It is not industrial rum, but it is not simply a fermented drink either. It is a powerful distillate, often reaching very high alcohol levels, sometimes comparable to spirits like scotch, whiskey, and in extreme cases, far stronger. In Puerto Rico, pitorro is not an everyday drink. Its presence is tied to the cultural calendar. Christmas, parrandas, New Year's Eve, Reyes Magos. It is commonly shared alongside coquito, another rum-based tradition, not casually but ritually. The word pitorro is popularly associated with the idea of something encurtido, strong, sharp, intense, and that fits. Pitorro does not aim to be smooth, it aims to be felt. And while it's difficult to find outside Puerto Rico, that's not accidental. Pitorro was never meant for export. It was meant to circulate between people, not markets. In the 19th century, Puerto Rico begins its transition from subsistence economy to an export economy. The Spanish crown encourages industrial production, standardization, and taxation. This is the turning point. Legal rum becomes regulated, taxed, branded, and exportable. Everything else becomes illegal by definition. Here's the key idea. Pitorro is not illegal because it's dangerous. Pitorro is illegal because it exists outside the government's control. Same sugarcane, same island, different power. Industrial producers become symbols of progress. Small producers become criminals. And then Prohibition came. In 1917, Puerto Ricans voted in favor of Prohibition. When Prohibition arrives in 1917, the government declares war on alcohol, but the effects are uneven. Large interests adapt, communities resist. Clandestine distillation explodes in the mountains. Utuado, Jayuya, Adjuntas, Lares, San Sebastián, Maricao, Las Marías, Orocovis, Villalba, Ciales, Barranquitas, Ay Bonito. This is when Pitorro becomes more than a drink. It becomes resistance. I remember hearing stories when I was a little kid of police raiding alambiques. Alambiques is where you extract the from Cañita. And I remember people talking about the police coming in and taking everything. I also hear about some officers that came in and just shared a drink or two and let the people be. You know, of course, this is all depending on who you know. So the authorities raid alambiques, producers are jailed. Myths are spread that Pitorro is dirty, poisonous, and unsafe. But the practice never disappears. Because it feeds families, it circulates trust, and it bypasses monopolies. Today, you can buy something called Pitorro in airports and tourist markets. It's bottled, taxed, and branded. But the real thing? Still illegal, still informal, and it's still very much alive. The irony is obvious. What threatens the system is danger. It's competition without permission. Pitorro is given. It's a gift, a sign of belonging, a reaffirmation of community. It moves hand to hand without labels. But you know the person. You know who to trust. It moves without advertising. It moves without permission. That's why legalization attempts have failed. You can legalize a product, but you can't legalize a relationship. And for the cocktail segment, so Pitorro forces an uncomfortable question. If something survives centuries of punishment, spreads without marketing, and persists across generations, who is really disconnected from reality? The people or the law? Pitorro is not nostalgia. It is not folklore. Pitorro is a living evidence that culture does not need approval to exist. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a great Sunday and enjoy with your friends and family. Remember, Puerto Rican history is not clean, it's not obedient, and it never fit in any bottle. I'm Josue, the spirited historian, and this was Chronicles and Cocktails. Have a great Sunday. Go to church, have fun, be with your family, be safe. Don't drink if you're gonna drive, and don't drive if you were drinking. Salud.